thank you all for coming. My name is Ben. I'm in the agribusiness program here at ZCM. Today we have Robert Molinet presenting. He owns Sierra Landscape Management, and he works predominantly in North Jersey, and he works a lot with natural stone and just making sure that the surrounding wilderness is not jarringly different from your own land, from your own backyard, and he'll tell you more about that.
Cool, thanks Ben. Okay. How you guys doing tonight?
Doing good.
Good. How many of you are students here? 4? Okay, cool. Welcome, those of you that are not, welcome students. What you got? There's a couple different certificates and stuff here. What are you guys in here for?
For landscape maintenance and design degree.
Maintenance design.
Design certificate.
Which one?
The design certificate.
Design, okay.
Landscaping.
Okay.
For the garden center.
Garden center? Okay, cool. Yeah, we had garden center the last one as well. So, awesome. My name is Robert Molinet. I appreciate you guys hanging out for the next 20 minutes or so. I'll try to keep it to that, give you guys the opportunity to ask any questions when we're done. If you go on the internet, I know some of my videos, my understanding is that they've been passed around through, I guess, the division that you guys got here. So you may be familiar with me through some of our YouTube stuff. The internet has dubbed me the backyard expert. I also founded Sierra Landscape Management back in 2004. I am the founder of the Stoneworker Academy. That is an academy that we've started where we provide in-person training it's for companies that want to train their workers in specifically natural stone, using dry stone methods, so wall building, flagstone, things like that. So we provide that service. I also am the host of the Calibrated CEO podcast. That's a business consulting and training group that we have where we help business owners who are transitioning into more leadership roles in their organizations. It's really built for businesses that are, stuck in that like $1 to $4 million range. We help them get out of that. Personal facts: I am a New Jersey youth soccer coach and trainer. I also love my family very much. It's my wife and my 3 kids up on top of a mountain. I think that was Lake George, if I'm not mistaken, where we were at. So that's a little bit about me. I promise I won't talk about myself anymore. Natural stone. It is the world's oldest building material. You can go back as far as 75,000 years to find man-made structures made using stone. Obviously, concrete didn't exist back then. I'm not going to go down verbatim everything that's here, but you guys are probably familiar with some of the stuff that's on there. The pyramids, the Colosseum in Rome, Washington Monument in DC. It's the world's tallest stone building. Cool, right? What does that mean? Well, why are there things that are 75,000 years old made of stone and a house only lasts 100 years? Because stone is strong. Stone has an extremely high compressive strength. It typically doesn't flex very well, but it's typically extremely dense and it withstands a lot of pressure. What does that mean real world for us? It means that it weathers much better than concrete and pavers would, which is typically the products that most landscapers would use. A lot of it comes down to PSI. You're talking about, 1,000 PSI, 4,000 PSI, 8,000 PSI, bluestone's like 12 to 15, granite's like 30 plus. So real world, what that means, it lasts a lot longer. Concrete paver, you install one for a patio, expect it to be replaced in 15 to 20 years, if not sooner. It's not uncommon for us to use reclaimed bluestone, which is 200 years old. This past year, we used a bunch of bluestone chunks for stairs, which came out of, they were a sidewalk in Jersey City. They were like 200 years old. They had wear marks from all the years of traffic and horses and all that kind of stuff. So it lasts a lot longer. Globally, natural stone is a very small percent of the market. Concrete is like 90% of it. What does that mean? It means that it's a niche market. Part of the other problem with natural stone is it's very expensive to install. Why? Labor is your biggest expense when you're running a company. Natural stone requires more tooling. Concrete, you set up a form, you pour it out. Concrete pavers, you're talking to manufactured material. Every paver's within reason going to come off the pallet and be the same thickness. A piece of natural stone, which Ben was asking the question in the last group, how much tooling do you use? Almost every single piece gets tooled. So you're talking about adding 20, 30, 40% to the cost of a project simply by using natural stone. The benefit on the other side is it's going to last 2, 3, 5, 100 times longer depending on what it is you're installing. So cost in the end, usually the ROI is better with natural stone. Most people don't even know it exists, but there is a percent of the population, that small percent, where there is no other option for them. Natural stone is the only way they'll go. Well, if you're running a business that solely works with natural stone, which is what we do, we don't cut grass, we don't plow snow, we don't do concrete pavers, we work with natural stone. You have to get super clear on who your product is for. With any business, if you can get super focused on what you offer and who it's for, you're gonna have a much easier time making those conversions with your customers. This would be a picture of a client, maybe in her younger years. Our typical buyer is about 45, 50 years old to about 60. This woman's probably 30, 35, but they typically would fit this role model. If you walked into their house, it would not be uncommon to see a picture like this. They're frequent travelers, they work remotely. They value experience with money. This is a huge factor. Okay, a lot of people in the general landscaping space, which is a massive industry, the green industry, there's a lot of ROI conversations. I'm buying a landscape, I can only spend X amount because of the value of the home, I'm gonna live in it 10 years. It's not uncommon for us to install a $200,000 backyard on a house that's valued at $350,000. From an investment standpoint, that makes no sense. But to this person, it makes complete sense. She's investing in her family, she's investing in the experience, and if she lives there 10 or 15 years and makes memories that she would have never otherwise had, it was worth every penny. They buy for themselves, and I don't mean that in a selfish way. What I mean is they're not concerned about what their neighbors think. They're making purchases because it makes them happy. They're making purchases and they're investing in their family. They're not concerned with keeping up with the Joneses. They're not putting in a feature because they want to impress somebody. They're buying it because it is an experience they want to have with their family. They typically are thrifty and resourceful. Our number one, we track a lot of data with our company. Our number one vehicle that our consumers drive is Audi. Audi is a luxury vehicle, but their branding message is not super, look at us. It's, hey, we got the Quattro system and it works really well. But we also see a lot of just Toyotas, RAV4s, Toyota Highlanders, things like that. They're not driving around in $150,000 cars very often. Even though they can, financially they can. They're relatable, they're generous. It's not uncommon for them to have a barbecue at the end of a project. They're also early adopters. By far, they use Apple products more than like Android and that type of thing. They're not afraid to make purchases, sizable purchases on products that are not tested and tried in the market. So you have a very small percent of the population that wants the product. We call them aficionados. They appreciate the product. And to be fair, in their mind, there is no other option. You know, they know they want natural stone, but it's a very small percent of the population. You're talking maybe hundreds of people in northern New Jersey each year that are even strongly considering this as their only option. How do you find them? Well, with any business, networking. Networking is always going to be your strongest tool. Who you know, who they know, and having those conversations. If I don't know that you want to be referred, I can't refer you. But if you tell everybody, who else do you know that I should be speaking to? Welcome, come on in, have a seat. Then they can effectively go out and help your business grow. Social media. It's a great way to get people in what's called top of funnel, gain some awareness to your brand. YouTube, you guys may or may not have seen some of our videos. We got a whole bunch of them up there. And don't be afraid of print. You know, we have our book over there. I have a bunch of those copies printed out. It's not uncommon for us to leave them with families for a week, 2 weeks, a month. Take them to consultations when we go consult with people. And obviously we bring them to events like this so you guys can see real world what's going on. The reality is that you can live in this world and have a following and YouTube videos and all that, but on Friday night when I check out and say I'm done with this and I put it down, that you go away, you become irrelevant. So print, networking, conversations are all super valuable still to this day as we're entering into 2023, just as important as they were in any history of business ownership. A lot of you guys probably are going to be interested or consider starting companies or maybe come into family-run companies. Is that fairly accurate? Considering maybe at some point starting a company. So you're going to start off, you're probably one guy, right? You probably start off like I started, literally started my company with 20 bucks in my pocket. I borrowed a garbage can and a rake. 20 years later, it's a much different animal. So you're going to start off and you're going to wear all these hats in the beginning, right? That's a lot. That's a lot to take on. What's going to happen is over time, you're going to start developing client bases, spreading your word, developing a brand. You're going to need to make hires. Usually what's going to happen is like year one, you're going to start operating, you're going to hire an accountant, you're going to outsource your finance. Cool. Your operations team, that's your face of your company. If you're making great hires and hiring great people, they're nice to your customers, they act the part when they leave work, that's going to be one of the biggest things you can do for your company. If you're hiring people that maybe are less desirable, they're the face of your company because they're going to the gas station after work and they're acting the way they're acting and they're wearing your name on their shirt. So operations, super important. Finance, obviously you want to make sure you're making money, keeping that good. As you grow, you're going to want to spread that word as you need to hire more people and keep this monster fed. Marketing, a lot of times you'll start by outsourcing. Customer service, this is the number one thing for us, keeping people happy. Everybody has an invisible sign around their neck that says, make me feel important. Your job as a company, particularly owner and operations, is to light up the sign of the people that see your brand and make them feel important. Like your conversation, your videos are speaking directly to them. So this is a big position for us. Eventually, if you get big enough, you fill all those positions in-house. As you're growing a business, it can be a very, very lonely road. Being a business owner, you carry a lot of weight, a lot of responsibility, a lot of risk. And very often, our families don't understand that. Our friends don't understand that. Our employees may not understand that, depending on how big your company is. Mentorship and support systems are absolutely monumental to business, especially as they grow. It's one of the best things I've ever done for myself personally and in business. Mentorships, coaches, whether that be a peer group, a Facebook group, New Jersey Landscape Contractors Association, National Association of Landscape Professionals, local groups, BNI groups. There's all kinds of support systems that you can use as an owner to become a better person. One of the other businesses I have, the Calibrated CEO, we help business owners with that. We give them a sense of community. We give them training on how to become leaders. An accountability partner. You guys have this beautiful network where you're going to school together. Some of you are going to stay in touch with each other. Well, as you get older and you go off and start your businesses, you may run into a challenge of, hey, I'm having this problem. What do you think I should do? Well, I'm going to call John over there and we're going to talk about it. So maintaining those relationships is super critical for you guys as you go. So don't be afraid to lean in. Don't ever think you have all the answers. Always be a student of life. That's what I got for you guys. I want to create some room for you guys to ask some questions. I'll leave this up. Feel free to take a picture of it. Again, my name is Robert Molinet. There's just some of my contacts on there. And that's what I got for you guys. If you guys have any questions, I will gladly hang out for as long as you want and answer them. Or comments. If I totally stunk, you can give me a thumbs down. That's cool.
Do you also install synthetic plow?
Synthetic? We got out,
Other things?
such as,
Pavers?
we haven't touched a concrete paver in probably 8 years. That's where I cut my teeth in the industry. I got into the industry at 16. Normal high school story, worked because I made more money doing that than other stuff, summers after school. Eventually, everybody left. I became the foreman because I was the only English-speaking person with a driver's license, knowing absolutely nothing. We did a lot of that. This is back in the 90s. So, red, tan, gray, rectangle 6x9s and octagons, a lot of that. Became very bored with that, so eventually transitioned away from that. But yeah, I say we only work with natural materials. Like 80% of our offering is natural stone. A lot of regular flagstone. We do a ton of irregular flagstone.
So when your prospect calls you to get a price, they know that they're going to be sold by you on natural product?
They are. That's kind of a loaded question. The majority of people know what they're getting into. Majority. There is that percent of the population that I still get calls for snow plowing and lawn, and we haven't done that as a company in over 10 years, right? Because there's going to be that percent of the population that just goes on Google, oh, landscaper, boop, what's going on? So yes, there is going to be a percent, no matter how well you position yourself, of people that are just not going to do any research and they're just going to call because they're desperate to get somebody on the phone, and that's tough for us as a business because there's so many companies that just don't pick up the phone, don't respond. It's the number one thing I hear. I can't get anybody else to come out, or so-and-so came out, John came out, gave me an estimate 3 weeks ago, I'm waiting for him to get back to me. There's no reason for that. So number one thing you guys can do in business, call people back, show up when you're supposed to, honor your word. You can literally build an entire business just by doing that. But yeah, probably about 8 years, just solely dry stacked walls. Like we don't do veneers. Now, obviously that limits us, right? If somebody wants a, veneer on the side of their house, that's not our wheelhouse. Now, if it's part of a bigger project, we have masons and things like that we'll work with, but in-house, dry stone, flagstone, dry stacked walls. We'll do a little bit of planting. I outsource the plant design, the boutique design. If customer wants a couple supporting things, no big deal. But actually, me and Richard, the gentleman on the other side, use the same designer, even though we don't know it. But I've worked with this designer for about 12 years. Anytime we have a customer that comes in and they want what we consider a boutique planting, then we outsource that. So, yes.
When you first got started, how did you reach most of your clientele? Did you advertise online, or was it you talk to friends and
Sure, great question. So back in, it was 2004, online was much different than it was today. There was no Facebook or any of that, or if it was, at least I wasn't on it. So very initially, a lot of word of mouth. Again, small company, fixed budget. Literally started my business with $20 worth of flyers. Drove around as a 25-year-old kid, handing out flyers and mailboxes and things like that. Got my foot into the door, and you over-deliver, right? Especially as a startup company, you promise a product, you do a great job, but you over-deliver, right? You're still going to make money, but you give them exceptional service. They're going to be very happy. They're going to tell their friends. So very quickly, within 3 months, went from literally a borrowed garbage can and a rake to 2 trucks, 3 employees. It scaled very, very quickly. And then of course it was a roller coaster, right? So 2004 and then 2009. There was a time where we were doing maintenance and construction, kind of less focused on what we're doing, pavers and things like that. And it was a very messy business. After we kind of came out of that, we got extremely clear, and that's when we honed in on this niche, said, okay, what is it that we really want to do? We want to do what we do now. And that's when we got super clear of what we offer and who we offer it to. Today in its current fashion, we only work with natural stone. We build backyards over $100,000. That's our offering. If somebody calls me, they need a $20,000 product, and it's a la carte, hey, I just need my walkway replaced. It's not that we can't help them, we're not really the best fit for them. So, but a lot of word of mouth. Today, social media is massive. We didn't have that. But, it's really just another way of spreading the word. You work for people, they go take the kids to the soccer. Hey, John, I see you guys are getting your backyard done. Oh yeah, Robert's great, whatever. Now all of a sudden you become relevant in other people's worlds. If you can create real estate in somebody else's brain, whether that be through a YouTube video or a social media post or a conversation that they're having with their friend at soccer, you're now living in their world. They're more likely to see your name, your brand, and then next thing you know, it's they're gonna see you everywhere. Right? It's you may not realize how many red cars you drive by, but if all of a sudden I tell you to go look for red cars, tomorrow you're going to see 10 of them, right? Because now all of a sudden your brain is focused on pointing out all the things that are red. So same thing. Somebody mentions your name, you become relevant in their world, all of a sudden they're going to recognize your truck every time it drives down the street, or your Facebook post that scrolls by, or whatever. So, good question. I appreciate that. Anybody else? Anybody working in the industry yet already? You are? Who do you work for?
I work for the Morris County Park Commission with the Freeling Housing Arboretum.
Oh, cool. Is it fun? Yeah, for sure. I love the industry. I love being outside. That's why I got into it. Like I said, I started very young in the industry. When I was around your guys' age, I was like, okay, what do I want to do? Did corporate for like 6 months, and I was like, boop, I'm out. When, completely broke my parents' heart when I said, nope, I'm going back into landscaping. Best thing I ever did, for sure. Yeah. Fire away. I got time.
Where can we find your podcast?
The podcast you can find on YouTube. You can snap a picture of either that or this. And the podcast itself is on Spotify and iTunes. We just ramped the podcast up, so there's only a couple episodes out, but we already got booked out till March. So it's just a matter of waiting for it to release. Business related. It's not specific to landscaping, but we talk a lot about contracting. Like I had a guy on the one that dropped last Wednesday. Gentleman started just like myself, pickup truck, $100 drywall patch. Now he runs a $4.5 million company. So we talk about those stories and lessons learned along the way. Yeah. Cool. Were the cookies good outside? Okay. I try not to eat things like that, sweets. So. Oh, believe me, I did. So. Anything else?
What kind of equipment do you run? Like excavators and skid steers?
Yeah, I love track loaders. We have a wheeled machine at our yard. For coming across, like especially northern New Jersey soil, track machines are much better. Working with natural stone, it really depends on what you're doing. We have a couple different mini X's, 6 ton, 4 ton. If you're setting big boulders, like you might see in the book, 4,000 pound rocks, you definitely want like 6 ton or even bigger. 6 ton's a nice machine because you can still haul it with in the right setup without CDL. It is typically efficient enough where it's slow, but you can dig a pool with it, you can excavate an entire project with it, but you can also still sling 4,000 pound rocks around. The other ones, and it's small enough where you're gonna be able to get in and out of jobs. Once you get a piece of equipment over 6.5 or 7 feet wide, you're gonna find a lot of places you can't take that efficiently. And then the other ones are great for that I'll typically leave on site with the crews that are just doing day to day, because they can dig plants, trees, run trenches for utilities very efficiently. And those are much smaller. Those are ones you could tow with a normal, a
ditch witch?
A ditch witch, we don't have any of those mini guys, the little ones, yeah. But depending on what you're doing, those are awesome machines. Sometimes we'll rent them. We used one a couple months ago. We rented it for an entire week just because we had to plant trees. We had to plant 100 and something trees for a client. And it actually, we had done the landscape in the spring. We had repaired everything. We did, repaired 12,000 square foot of turf or whatever. We didn't want to trash it again. I didn't want to have to repair it again. So we rented one of those little minis and we drove over it for a week and there was no damage. So definitely have a place, especially with some of the attachments. Like if you're digging trenches for irrigation, running cable, planting trees, moving trees, you can move materials with them. But I think the limit on them is depending on, there's some big ones now. There's some ones that'll pick up pallets, but they're typically 1,000 pound for the normal size ones. Which is still pretty good, but it's not a full pallet. A pallet of flagstone, you're talking about 4,000 pounds. So you need a pretty big machine to move that. Yeah. What else?
Thanks.
Oh, thank you for coming. All right, well, thank you guys.